Hello there! Welcome to Wake Up to the Bible. I'm Daniel Kaplan. I'm here with my father, Dr. Kaplan. Together we're reading the books of the law, Genesis through Deuteronomy, over the course of this year, reading a little bit every day. Today we're reading Genesis 29, 1 through 17. I'll be reading from the Robert Alter translation, and then we will discuss what we have read. So let's get right to it. And Jacob lifted his feet and went on to the land of the Easterners. And he saw, and look, there was a well in the field. And look, 3 flocks of sheep were lying beside it. For from that well they would water the flocks, and the stone was big on the mouth of the well. And when all the flocks were gathered there, they would roll the stone from the mouth of the well, and would water the sheep, and put back the stone in its place on the mouth of the well. And Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Do you know Laban, son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said to them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. And look, Rachel his daughter is coming with the sheep. And he said, Look, the day is still long. It is not time to gather in the herd. Water the sheep and take them to graze. And they said, We cannot until all the flocks have gathered, and the stone is rolled from the mouth of the well, and we water the sheep. He was still speaking with them when Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it happened when Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that he stepped forward and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well and watered the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kin, and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. And it happened, when Laban heard the report of Jacob his sister's son, he ran toward him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he recounted to Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Indeed, you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him a month's time, and Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my kin, should you serve me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were tender, but Rachel's was comely in features and comely to look at. All right, so that's where we're going to leave it off. It's a little bit of a cliffhanger. When we start out here and we get to a well, obviously lots of wells going on in the Bible, specifically towards marriage, right? Because you have Rebecca at the well, you have Rachel at the well, you'll have Zipporah at a well later on, which is interesting. And then, of course, in the New Testament, you have Jesus meeting the woman at the well, which also relates to marriage as well, in a different sort of way. Just interesting that symbolism keeps coming up.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the scripture in Isaiah. She'll pour forth water from the wells of salvation.
Right. And then, of course, here, I mean, if you want to get all Christology about it, you can have, the stone is rolled from the mouth of the well, and we water the sheep. I mean, the stone rolling away and the sheep getting the water, like there's some Christology going on there if you want to find it.
Yeah. So Jacob was a manly sort of person,
right?
But you get the idea from the earlier accounts that maybe he wasn't, but no, yeah, he was.
Right.
And later on, he wrestles all night.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think Rachel could mean a ewe, a female sheep, and so it's kind of interesting, it says here, Rachel's with the lamb. I guess I turned the page.
The shepherdess, is that what you're saying? Yeah, Rachel, his daughter's coming with the
sheep, and she's a shepherdess.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting because that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when relatives meet one another, you would think they would kiss each other and possibly on one cheek or both cheeks. And then, because she's family, he's so excited about meeting family, and and he's crying. He even breaks down and cries. But it's interesting that among ultra-Orthodox Jews, there's no contact between male and female.
Right.
And some of them, I think, have the idea that he kissed her on the hand, which in Muslim countries, can happen. I remember an older woman, a Pakistani. I was teaching her English, and when she finished class at the end of the year she kissed me on the hand. Evidently that's something that at least in some Muslim cultures you can do.
Hmm.
But I think that the ultra orthodox go beyond what the Bible would show you is proper conduct among relatives. Because here he does kiss Rachel here as his cousin, and then of course Laban
Well, I
kisses him.
mean, it's more than that, though, don't you think? I mean, I don't know. The context of this I see is much more like kind of romantic, not just familial.
Well, he just met her, but yeah,
But I mean, he also knows because he's been instructed to go there to marry somebody, right?
that's the
And
point.
then she's there, and he like impresses her with his manly physique because he rolls the stone, and then. I mean, I'm not saying like they made out or something, but I'm not so sure that this was just some platonic situation.
All right. Well, yeah, that's how Hollywood portrayed it in one miniseries that I saw.
Yeah.
But I think that they went beyond.
Well, I'm not,
Well,
like I said, I'm not sure if he like made out or something.
no.
But
And then men kissed each other in that culture too,
right.
and you find that in the New Testament as well. Now Laban is a manipulator,
Hmm.
and I think he knew the wealth that Abraham's family had, and I think he felt like, and also I think Jacob would have been a loyal employee, would have been a good worker, and he
Yeah.
possibly felt Jacob was blessed by he did have a concept of Yahweh, although he evidently had other gods as well, but
Right.
he did have a relationship with the God of Abraham. So he was, I think he was already making his plans of utilizing Jacob.
Yeah.
I think he also knew at this point that Jacob was sweet on Rachel.
Yeah.
You don't see that here, but I think that right away it's brought up, so he may have known that already.
Well, yeah. I mean, she runs and tells him,
Yeah, right,
so
right,
it's
yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
yeah. She's like,
Well, maybe it
she's
was.
like this strong, strapping young man just rolled the stone away. He seems nice.
Well, maybe let's get romantic. Maybe it was love at first sight. They already were, interested in each other from the first
It's what it
meeting.
seems like. I mean, that's the way it's
Okay,
written
all
because it
right,
says, "And it happened when he saw her that he
right,
rolled the stone." That really is like that typical like
yeah,
Hollywood moment. It's like in Star Wars where she kisses him for luck before they swing across. It's like the old,
yeah, right. Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. Good luck.
you get
Yeah.
that that sexual burst of energy, and you're able to
That's
do that superhuman feat.
all
Because
right.
rolling a stone is no small task. Like that would be really impressive.
No, that does seem to be the case. That when he sees her, he
Yeah,
wants to impress her.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like all right.
Right. Yeah.
And then she runs off, and then yeah, but it's funny too because I know some people even make it out to like he embraced Jacob and was like trying to see if he had anything on him, almost like
That's how Rashi puts it.
yeah, they
I
take
think
it.
Rashi's having fun with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Laban does come across a little bit like a mobster sometimes, so you kind of get that
And his
impression,
name is White.
right?
It's like the white sepulcher in
Yeah.
the New Testament. The
Like I said, it's almost like Mister Smiley or something, like a gangster with a really innocuous name, and he has a name of White, and he's like anything but like a white knight kind of guy.
you could take this either way in verse 17. Maybe
Hmm.
maybe she had pretty eyes, but overall wasn't that pretty.
Right.
But some people take the delicate eyes as some kind of a negative thing.
Hmm.
Um, the Jews have an interesting tradition, that since she was the firstborn, she was afraid she was going to have to marry Esau, the firstborn of Jacob, so she was crying about it all the time. That's
Mm.
just kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
But I think you could take this delicate eyes either way.
Right.
That this is in her favor, but she wasn't quite the bombshell that Rachel was,
Yeah.
or it could be that something she was lacking something.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you could either take it as they're comparing because in comparison to Leia, Rachel's eyes were not bad, and maybe it's even implying some sort of disability, like maybe she didn't see well or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
which back then it's like culturally, it's like genetically, it's like, well, what kind of children are we going to have if she doesn't see well? People could be very biased about that. Or it could be that actually her eyes were great, but everything else wasn't particularly great. It's like nowadays we call it a butter face, where somebody is beautiful except for their face, so they call them a butter face. So this might be a butter eye situation. But I would be, if I had to guess, and this is just an educated guess, I would say that I would lean more towards the eyes being a problem and the rest of it not, just because of what comes later in terms of comparing the two people. But it's just speculation. But we will get to that when we get to later and my thoughts about all of that. Now, I will say this is very smart bargaining, by the way. Laban says to Jacob, because you're kin, should you serve me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. Everybody knows in a business negotiation that the first person to throw out a number is the loser. Just keep that in mind. Uh, Laban's no dummy, because the first number anchors the conversation, and when you put it on the other person, they often lowball. Now, granted, some people are smart enough to know not to do that, and then they negotiate well. But often, the first person to throw out a number is the loser. That's just a business thing. I don't know if you of course you might get a lot of people commenting like that's not true. I don't know. That's what I thought from game theory. So if you disagree, comment below and let me know why I'm wrong. That's fine. That's generally what I've heard. And it certainly would fit his character that he would be good at negotiating because that's Laban. All right. Anything else? Oh wait, the one thing too is Laban when he says you are my bone and my flesh. That sounds like Adam. That's kind of interesting parallel going on there. I don't know. I just thought that was weird. Bone in my bone, flesh in my flesh. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the fact that there's that parallel for that specific situation is kind of interesting. I don't know. It's kind of stuck out. Anything else that came to mind when you were looking at this?
No, one wonders if there wasn't some oral tradition about the creation time, like he's quoting something that people
Oh,
would say.
yeah.
You know, it's
Well, it
interesting.
had to be preserved somehow, right?
Hadn't struck me that way.
Unless you just think, I mean, I guess some people do. They might think that Moses was just like summoned and it was almost like the Book of Mormon and some person gave him information. I generally don't think that. I generally think that by the time you get to that, there was a tradition.
Yeah.
And sure, there was inspiration to make sure the tradition was cleaned up or something.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was like completely lost information.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Anyway, something to think about.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, and there's going to be a lot more.
Oh, yes, there's a lot more coming. It's going to get interesting. Whatever, sex and politics. So check us out tomorrow.
Well, I'll just say this: the Bible later prohibits marryings if you're going to be polygamous, which in those days happened. But even under polygamy, there's restrictions, and one of them is you don't marry sisters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here you see the problem with the strife between the sisters. So later on, it's prohibited.
All right. So we'll see you tomorrow. If you're enjoying this feed, please like, subscribe, hit the bell. It's a great year to read the law together. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.